Good afternoon, everyone. I am Carla. My name is Carla, and my company is called Snooze Tots. I am a paediatric sleep consultant, and I'm here for the next half an hour to help you with all your sleep-related baby and toddler issues. So just type away, and we'll try and get through as many questions as we can in this session. Let's kick off. See if there's any questions yet. So I'll tell you a little bit about me, so whilst we wait for questions. So I help lots of tired mums and dads with their baby sleep. So it's usually on a one-to-one basis. So we just either work together over a 2-week period, or or it's just a one-off phone call. So really depends how much help and support they feel they need. As I said, send in your questions and we will get answering as many as we can in this session. Just type away. I also do workshops for Let's Talk Birth and Baby. So there's the newborn ones, and then there's the 4-month plus one. So you can book on those as well. So we kind of run through some really kind of practical advice on what you can do to improve your little one's sleep, depending on their age. As I said, just ask away any sort of questions you've got, whether it's about how much sleep should they have in the day, what do I recommend. If this kind of sleep's gone a bit off track, just put the questions in, and I will get answering. Have we got any coming through yet? I hope they're coming through. So I will talk to you whilst waiting on questions coming through about question I get asked a lot about is in terms of how can I teach my baby to self-settle. And now there are tons of different ways you can do it. It doesn't mean that you have to let them cry out. There's lots of different techniques. So it's about finding that right approach for you and your baby that you feel comfortable with. So it's kind of researching and understanding the different approaches, and that's what I kind of teach my clients. I give them a range of different options, and they will know, and I'll be able to tell them and advise them by baby's temperament and parents what they're ultimately comfortable with. So first question here is, how long can my 2-year-old baby nap for in the day? Huda. So really depends. So some 2-year-olds still need a nap, some don't, and it really depends. The way I would say is some will still have up to 2 hours, some will just have got rid of their nap, but I'd say 1.5 to 2 hours, if their night sleep is okay, is absolutely fine. Kind of judge it by their night sleep. You might need to pull back a little bit and let them have a little bit less. If their night sleep's interrupted or they're waking up early, you might need to adjust it. So it really just depends on how their night's going as to how much you can give them the day. Aim for around 12:30 for that nap. Sama, my daughter is 3 years old, but still she comes to sleep with me many times at the night. So what I would suggest you do is, it's going to take a lot of persistence. So first of all, does she know how to go to sleep herself? The first things first. When you put her down at night at her bedtime, can she put herself to sleep without your assistance? If she does, okay, that's fine, great. If not, then I'd say start working on that. And then when she wakes up in the night, you're going to have to, if she comes into your room, then you're going to have to just silently return her, and the most minimal interaction better. That's always better, because if you interrupt them, even kind of, why are you coming into our room, go back to your bed, it's still attention to them. You've got to try and be minimal interaction. You can just say one line, it's bedtime, and take her silently back to her bed, and you're just going to have to keep on repeating that. If that's not working for you and she's still not in bed, it's up to you. Some parents choose to, and they want to kind of gain a bit of control. You can put a gate on the door of her door, just make sure the room's safety proofed. That's up to you. There's different ways that you can kind of handle it. Also, reward charts at 3-year-olds. Incentivize. You can try incentivizing her to stay in her bed. So a bit of like incentivization, like reward charts. So if she stays in bed, she gets a prize sort of thing. So there's that option as well. Grow clocks as well. So she's got to stay in the bed, like a sort of until the light turns green sort of thing. You can do that. There's lots of different ways, and it depends on the child as to what's going to work for them. My little girl is 20 months old. How long should she be napping for in the day? So she's like 1.5 years old. So really, it can vary. So I'd need to know how's her night sleep. So she could be just having, does she need like 1.5 to 2 hours? Is that enough for her? Does she wake up okay when she goes to bed? Is she overtired? There's a lot of different, every little one that age, they all do have different sleep needs. So around about 1.5, 2 hours, I'd say, is what she probably needs at the 12:30 mark. Few questions that came through, so I will read them out to you, which you'll probably find quite useful as well. So, my 3-week-old baby girl just wants to be constantly fed, and I'm finding it hard to get her to sleep. She won't settle and just keeps crying before and after feeds. What can I do? So really, at this age, they're 3 weeks old, she wants to be constantly fed, very normal. I need to know a little bit more info. So like, you just want to try and make sure that she's going to sleep every 45 minutes to an hour. At 3 weeks old, that's really how long they can really stay awake for in between sleep. So 45 minutes to an hour is when you kind of want to get her down for sleep, to try and make sure she's not overtired. And you're aiming for about 6 hours sleep in the day. They do sleep a lot in the day, around the 6-hour mark in the day, across like six naps. I mean, at this age, it's up to you how you want to get her to sleep. You can try and practice putting her down in her own crib or bassinet or whatever you're putting her in. Or you can just do these in the sling, in the pram, however you find works best for you this time to get her to sleep. That's absolutely fine. And just try using white noise. She might actually find that quite comforting. And then after feeds, just try and keep her upright for a bit. Just and make sure she's well burped. But as I said, I need to know more detail to give you kind of like more specific advice. But that's for newborns. That's what I'd suggest. The other question was, I'm due to give birth next month, and my last baby is now 10. My friend keeps telling me about giving her a dream feed when she goes to bed, which makes her little one sleep through. What is it, and should I do it with my new baby I plan to breastfeed? So a dream feed, that's when you don't fully wake your baby, so they're kind of like half awake, and you give them the feed, and you just do it just before you're heading to bed. And this does work for some, especially for younger babies. This works because this can work quite well. It does work for some, it doesn't work for others. When they get a little bit older though, personally I prefer, and if it's working for you, then carry on. I personally, from experience, I find that I'd rather a baby woke because they were genuinely hungry than you just kind of creating a habit and them taking it. Because if I was presented with a chocolate milkshake in the night, I'd probably take it. Not necessarily hungry, but if it's there, I'd take it. I wasn't genuinely hungry. So I'd rather my baby woke because you were genuinely hungry. I give them their feed. That's for the older ones. But absolutely, a lot of parents use dream feeds, and if it works for you, it works. Then great, use it. What's another question? Could the clock change have confused my 3-year-old? We do all the usual bedtime routine, but she started crying and fussing since the clocks went forward when before she'd just self-settle. Yeah, it can throw her a little bit. It can take the body a little bit time to adjust. What I would try doing is just try moving her bedtime forward by half an hour for a few days. So give her a little bit extra. I'd say move the bedtime. So for like 7, do 7:30 and see if that helps. She just might not be tired enough just because of the clock change. So see if that helps. What other questions? My near 9-week-old has a routine when it's bedtime at 8, and she'll sleep through normally until about 1, 2 and wakes up herself when she's hungry. Last night she was very fussy and screaming. She's very laid back normally, but nothing would soothe her. When we got her down after feed, she slept from 8:30 through to 5 a.m. without a feed or change. Is this a normal thing? Should I be trying to get her up for feed during the night? So this is really very much on a case-by-case basis at this age. So always be directed by your doctor, your health visitor, and this is dependent on their weight and other, if there's any other health issues, as if you need to wake them. Some, you might speak to your health visitor and they go, absolutely great weight, no need to wake them up anymore, and you can let them kind of wake themselves up if they are hungry. Others might still need to be woken up on a regular basis to kind of get their weight going. So it really is on a case-by-case basis whether you should be waking them or not. So just speak to your doctor or health visitor as to whether you should or not. This is a good question, which will probably apply to a lot of you guys. My little girl is 7 months old and currently depends on being rocked in my arms to sleep for nap and bedtime. She currently naps at 9 a.m, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half, and it tends to be afternoon naps where she will fight it the most. I've tried leaving her in the cot, but she would just not self-settle, even with me staying there or going in and reassuring. I'm in desperate need of some advice as I can no longer go on like this. Okay, so you always have to remember that if whatever you do to get your baby to sleep, they will expect this whenever they wake. Now, we all wake in the night. You wake in the night, I wake in the night, but it's the ability to kind of just go back to sleep, and also it helps connect sleep cycles. So if you, whatever you do, so this mum here is rocking her baby to sleep. So when her baby wakes, she's expecting to be rocked, because why else? That's what she's used to. So that's why she'll cry out, and mum will have to go and do it again. So you always have to do something that you have to think, what am I doing at the beginning to get them to sleep? And am I comfortable doing that through the night if they wake? So if, as you can see here, mum doesn't want to be doing that anymore. So you've got a few options. You could do it really gradually, where you take, you could start by, instead of rocking her, you can try just holding her. And then from holding, after not actually just letting her fall asleep, just holding. So you're kind of doing it really gradually, just going from holding, and then try and put her down in the cot, and then try and settle her from the side of the cot. Or you can go straight from rocking to just putting her straight down into the cot and settling her from the side of the cot. Now, there are tons of different ways you can do that. I can't go through step-by-step techniques of self-settling methods. But finding an approach that works for you. So whether that is, so this mum here says she's tried leaving in the cot, but she'll not self-settle. You don't need to just leave her. You can kind of comfort her from that side of the cot. But finding that right approach, do some research on the right methods. As I said, I do the workshops with Let's Talk Birth and Baby, and we talk through different methods that I use with my private clients. Or if you want to do one-to-ones with me, that's also fine. But yeah, it's kind of teaching her a new way to fall asleep, so that when she wakes in the night, she doesn't expect that you're going to be there to rock her back to sleep. Also making sure she's got that right day sleep as well is going to help tremendously. So 7 months, you're looking at around 3 hours sleep, 3.5 hours sleep in the day. That's like the maximum amount. Some kids have lower sleep needs, some have a little bit higher, but that's just an average for you. This could be over 2 to 3 naps, depending on the length of their naps. And in terms of wake time, because making sure you're putting her down at the right time between sleep is key. So when she wakes in the morning, your 9 a.m. sounds about right, depending on when she wakes, but don't do a nap before 8:30. And for the rest of the day, the morning wake time might be slightly shorter, but for the rest of the day, you're roughly looking at around 2 hours 45, 2.5 hours, depending on baby. So watch for their sleep cues to see when they're ready to go down for a sleep. So the day sleep really will affect how well she sleeps at night. And making sure if she still is on 3 naps, making sure that last nap of the day is done by like around the 4:30, 4:45 mark. Latest 5, so that she's got a long enough wake time between the last nap of the day and bedtime. Okay, here's the next question. Anna. 3 in May. Does he still need daily naps? It really depends. So there are some 3-year-olds that still do. So what does your 3-year-old? Does your 3-year-old sleep well at night if she still has a nap? If she doesn't, you might need to reduce the day's sleep. Some kids will still take a 2-hour nap at 3 and be sleep beautifully till 7 till 7. Some actually, if you gave them a nap in the day at 3, that their night's kind of going to be really disrupted. So you kind of got to work on what's going to work for your little one. Often by 3 they have dropped their nap and they are absolutely fine. It can take a few days, like either in a week, to kind of adjust to not having a nap. And when you do drop the nap, you want to give them an early bedtime to compensate for, because their body's so used to having a nap. It's a real big change. So making sure that you give her a 6:30 bed at the beginning and just gradually move it a little bit later as you see that she gets on okay with it. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Grace. What's the best age to remove the cot sides? So, are you meaning so she's in a cot and you're going to put her in a bed? So I tend to say if your child is not showing any sort of interest or isn't climbing out the cot that is unsafe, then keep them in the cot for as long as possible. And if they're happy in their cot, keep them in there. If your baby has sleep issues, moving them from a cot to a bed is probably not going to solve it, because now they have free reign, and you're going to find them wandering around, which often can be kind of unsafe in the house if they're wandering through around at night. So I'd say 3 years old is often the age that they move from cot to bed. So you take the sides down. It's a case by case, because if you have a younger child that's climbing out of the cot and it's actually becoming dangerous and you've got it on the lowest setting and they're still climbing out, then you might have to move them to a bed. But don't do it thinking it's probably going to solve your sleep issues. It probably won't. Because those boundaries are now gone. Any other questions, guys? No? The other thing I would say, whilst we're just waiting for more questions, things that you can think about in terms of encouraging sleep. Things like, is the room dark enough, especially as it's getting lighter right now? So just try and make sure that the room that they're sleeping in is dark enough. So blackout blinds, or do a little DIY job just to make sure the light's not coming in. Because what's going to happen is that light's going to come in and it will send a signal to their bodies that it's time to wake up, and they'll be waking up a little bit early. So their cortisol, that hormone, the melatonin, the sleepy hormone will drop, and that cortisol, that wake hormone, will rise, and that's going to start waking them up, because the light kind of sends a signal to them that it's time to wake up. So trying to make the room as dark as possible is key. Just things like that, trying to not give them too late bedtime. A lot of parents think by putting them down late is going to help and get them to sleep in later. Often it does the opposite. It's finding that balance of not too late a bedtime, but equally not too early, so that they're not tired enough. But often parents think, I'm going to put my baby down at 9-10 o'clock hoping that's going to help get them to sleep through. Not necessarily. Cortisol, stress hormones released in their body, and then they're probably going to have more of a disrupted night's sleep and wake up probably earlier. So just be mindful of those sort of things. There's a question here. So my 2-year-old goes to bed at 7 p.m, self-settles sleep, but then wakes at certain times during the night, early hours, and sometimes takes a few hours for him to settle with me, keep going in and laying him back in bed. Or walking him back to bed, sitting by him, moving closer to the door, walking out once he's back at bed, etc. He screams and cries at his door gate. I can't just leave him. He doesn't nap during the day. He hasn't for a few months now. But even when he did nap, he was exactly the same. Have you got any advice for me to try to help himself settle and actually sleep all night? Okay, so Amy, so is he just turned 2? If he's just turned 2, I would just try putting his bedtime a little bit, and when I need to know when he dropped his nap as well. Just to let me know how is he 2 years and a month, or is he nearly turning 3? Kind of how old is he in terms of when you say he's 2 years old, and he self-settles sleep, so then wakes at certain times during the night, early hours, and sometimes takes a few hours for him to settle with me keep going in. So you're doing the right thing. As long as you're being consistent. But I would maybe try doing a different technique. So when you say do you say you've got the cries at his door gate? So I would use a method called, have a look at the kissing technique. So you're encouraging him to stay in bed, and you'll come back to give him a kiss, and you kind of extend the time that you leave the room. But I also think it sounds like if he's waking up a lot in the night, so first of all, look up the kissing game technique. Second of all, if you've just moved to no naps, you might need to do a slightly earlier bedtime. Is he overtired? I don't know if you've just moved to no naps, because 2 years it's quite young to have no naps. So maybe move his bedtime slightly earlier. Try and avoid screen time as well, an hour before bed. Has he got some sort of comforter as well, that he can get comfort from instead of you? So try those sort of things. Why does my 2-year-old, a lot of 2-year-olds today, wake up several times a night and only has an hour nap in the day? We've tried not having a nap, but she's grumpy and tired by 4ish. Gemma, does your daughter? Yeah. Does your daughter know how to put herself to sleep? If you're saying she's waking up several times, does she settle herself to sleep? I'd need to know that. Keep the hour nap. Is it at the right time of day? So trying to aim for a 12 o'clock nap. So then she's got a longer wake time in the afternoon to kind of build up enough sleep pressure. What's her bedtime? If she's having an hour's nap around 7:30, it's probably about right. I need to know lots more details for these sort of questions. How can I get my 4-month-old to sleep through? He's not a good eater and wakes at least twice a night. He's fast asleep by 9 p.m. Our 2-year-old also likes to wake between 4 and 5, so I'm exhausted. He doesn't seem to be hungry, but when he wakes, he just wants attention. What can I do to help him sleep through, as he'll be sharing a room with our daughter come 6 months, but can't until he's going through it, as I'll have both awake during the night. Okay, so 4-month-old, he might not necessarily be able to sleep through it. He may still need a feed at 4 months. It's perfectly normal. So kind of, and if you say he's not a good eater, he may still be genuinely hungry at 4 months, so he may still need a feed. So bear that in mind. You can start working though, if you're not already, teaching him to fall asleep. If you're kind of feeding him sleep or rocking him to sleep, you can kind of start teaching him to fall asleep in his own sleep space, and that will help tremendously if he can start falling asleep on his own. Because what he'll do is he'll wake up, he'll move through sleep cycles more easily, and if he does wake up, he'll put himself back to sleep. Also, making sure he's getting enough sleep in the day is going to help tremendously at 4 months. So aiming for around 3.5 to 4 hours, depending on his sleep needs, if he has high sleep needs, and practice putting him down for his naps as well, himself as well. So trying to do it all, teaching him himself. It depends. It depends on the length of naps. Aim for about 3 to 4 naps, depending on the length of nap, with the last nap of the day being a short cat nap. And then it's about, he's saying he's fast asleep by 9 p.m. That's quite late for a 4-month-old. So at 4 months, you kind of want that last nap of the day finishing by 5. 2-hour wake time between that 5 o'clock, throughout all the day. You want wake times of about 2 hours-ish. And then getting him down by 7 should help. He's probably overtired if he's going down at 9. So that's how you deal with your 4-month-old. Our 2-year-old also likes to wait between 4 and 5, so I'm exhausted. So what's his day routine? You need to let me know. Is he going to bed too late, too early? Is he having too much sleep in the day? And if he's not having a nap, do you need to bring his bedtime a little bit earlier? Making sure that room is pitch black as well. Lots of things that we need to discuss there. Okay, so let's go back to these replies. Gemma, she's 3 in July and she settles really well. Okay, so it might be time to actually give up the nap, I know, or even just reduce it to half an hour, Gemma, because she's at an age where she may actually just need, and I know you said she's tired by 4ish. It can take a while for their body to adjust. So she may, or just first of all, reduce it to half an hour and see if that helps, and do that 12 to 12:30 nap, and then see if that helps first of all. And then you might actually need to give it up. But I would hold on to it, but just maybe cut it down to like 45 minutes, half an hour, then half an hour, and seeing what, but try, I don't know what time you're doing the nap, but if you make it a little bit earlier in the day, then at least she's got a longer wake time to build up enough sleep pressure before bed. So if you do it at 12, that's better than 12:30 at that age. Okay, so Laura, he's great with going to sleep on his own, just not when he wakes at night. The 2-year-old has a 1 to 2 hour nap every day, is in bed by 7, and asleep every night. So it might be that actually, so let me just go back to the question. How can I get my, he does seem to be hungry. So he might be maxed out with sleep. He might have, if you look at his sleep in a 24-hour period, if he's waking up, let's say at 5 o'clock, and he's had a 2-hour nap, he might be maxed out for sleep. So you could just try putting him, if he's having if he's having a 2-hour nap, sometimes he may need to go to bed that slightly a little bit later, 7:30, or you consistently bring it to just cut it slightly as well. So maybe you consistently do an hour and a half with the 7:30 bed. It's kind of playing around with the times to see what works. Early wakings are the trickiest thing to solve, because you've got to play around with the times to see what's actually going to work for him. Because they're all different. Some 2-year-olds don't need a nap and they sleep beautifully all night, and some still do. So it's kind of one of these tricky ones that you're going to have to play around with the times to see what works. Right. I think that's it, guys. So hopefully that has been useful. I am back on here not next Thursday, the following Thursday. So if you have any more questions, then just drop. We'll pick them up. Not next Thursday, the following Thursday. And yeah, so have a lovely weekend, everyone. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.